When I returned in triumph from the battlefield, the man I had loved for years, Zhou Lang, the one who had always lived in my heart, had already married someone else. And yet I was foolish enough to beg the emperor for permission to marry him anyway, willing to lower myself and become nothing more than a secondary wife. The day the imperial decree of marriage arrived, he was overjoyed. He hosted a grand banquet for his colleagues, celebrating as if he had gained the greatest fortune in the world. But on the very first night of our wedding, he looked at the scars covering my body with disgust. He refused to come anywhere near me. My old wounds flared up again, and in grief and fury I died that night. What was even more hateful was what he did afterward. Knowing I had no family left to defend me, he seized every last piece of my property. Then I opened my eyes again. I had been reborn one day before the wedding. This time I was finally clear-headed. All I wanted was to be a good general, to live my life as the woman who commanded armies on the battlefield. But the emperor asked me a question. "Tell me," he said, "would you rather become the duke who safeguards the nation or my adopted daughter?"
Hi, welcome to Moonlit Love Stories. Tonight's story is about a famous female general who used to be a total crybaby, especially when it came to the man she loved. She trusted her so-called perfect ex with her whole heart, only to be betrayed and nearly destroyed. But after a shocking rebirth, everything changes. This time, she refuses him without hesitation, exposes the charming fraud he really is, and finally notices the loyal warrior who has been standing beside her through every battle and every scar. Let's step into the story.
When I opened my eyes in this life, I was sitting in my chamber, still holding a jade pendant in my hand. It was the one Zhou Lang had personally given me 5 years ago, the day I left for war. Back then, he had looked at me with deep affection and said, "Li Yueyuan, as long as you come back alive, I will marry you." I clung to that single sentence through countless nights of pain and sleeplessness. The room was covered in bright red decorations, so dazzling that it hurt my eyes, and it dragged my thoughts right back to the battlefield. My chest felt tight. I stood and pushed open the window. A gust of spring wind swept in, and my thoughts drifted far away with it. My mother died early, and my father was always away at war. I grew up following my older brother around, climbing trees, catching cicadas, waving spears and sticks. I had none of the manners expected of a proper young lady. When I was 8, my father finally had a break from the front lines and came home. He hired a tutor to teach me how to read and write. He patted my head and said, "Little you, your father never had an education. Even though I became a great general, I'm still just a rough soldier at heart. But you're a girl. If you grow up just as rough, no one will want to marry you." But I was too wild. In just 2 short years I managed to drive away 8 tutors. After that, no teacher in the capital was willing to come to our house. In the end, my father dressed me in boys' clothing and sent me to the strictest private academy in the capital. It happened to be spring then as well. The moment I stepped into the academy, I saw Zhou Lang at once. He was wearing a faded blue robe, sitting by the window, reciting poetry and classical texts. Sunlight spilled across the side of his face, making his delicate features glow softly. The slingshot in my hand slipped from my fingers and hit the ground with a sharp clack. Hearing the sound, he turned his head. A gentle smile curved on his lips. "Are you the new student?" he asked warmly. "If you don't mind, would you like to share a seat with me?" That single smile ruined my entire previous life. "General, the wind by the window is strong. Your injuries only just healed. You shouldn't catch a chill." The personal guard stationed outside the window spoke softly. I snapped back to the present. I tossed the jade pendant, its surface worn smooth with age, casually onto the table and curled my lips into a faint smile. "Since when have I been so fragile?" I said lightly. "Prepare my horse. I'm going to the palace. You want to cancel the marriage?" Inside the imperial study, the emperor, a man in his 40s, set down his vermilion brush. He raised an eyebrow and glared at me. "You were the one who begged for this marriage in open court. Do you remember that? So many people tried to talk you out of it. Zhou Lang was already married. But what did you say back then?" I knelt before the throne, my head lowered. That day, I had just returned victorious from the battlefield. I hadn't even taken off my silver armor yet. My cloak was still stained with blood. And yet I had stood in the center of the grand hall and declared firmly, if I cannot marry him as my husband, then I would rather lay down my armor, return to the countryside, and live out the rest of my life alone. Thinking about it now made my face burn. The emperor stared at me. I'm talking to you. What's wrong? Cat got your tongue. I sniffed softly. If my father were still alive. The emperor immediately waved his hand. All right. I won't scold you anymore. Get up and speak properly. Slowly I pushed myself to my feet, even rubbing my knees a little. The emperor let out a laugh of exasperation. That's enough. Stop pretending. I promised your father I would take extra care of you, and I won't break my word. Now tell me, what kind of grievance made you change your mind and force me to go back on my decree? I pursed my lips. Last night my brother came to me in a dream. He said Zhou Lang is not a good man. He doesn't approve of this marriage. The emperor had just lifted his teacup when his hand jerked in shock. Tea splashed out and scalded his fingers. He quickly set the cup down. You little rascal. I was trying to comfort you, and this is how you fool me. I looked up at him, my lips trembling slightly. My elder brother raised me. To me he is like a father. If he says no, I have to listen. The emperor's chest rose and fell in frustration. He pointed at me for a long moment but couldn't seem to form a single word. I quickly took out my military command seal and raised it above my head with both hands, bowing deeply. When I first returned, I was too focused on the marriage and forgot to hand this back. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. The emperor took the seal and examined it carefully. Then he placed it solemnly into a box before picking up his teacup again and taking a slow sip. Finally he spoke. For the sake of the Li family's generations of loyalty to this country, I'll grant your request. But remember, this marriage was something you begged for in open court. If you want to cancel it, then you must say it yourself in open court. I have no desire to be criticized by the scholars. Seeing that his mood had improved, I quickly bowed again. Thank you for your grace, Your Majesty. Then I withdrew from the imperial study. The next morning, I put on the official robes of a second-rank cavalry general and walked slowly toward the Golden Throne Hall. The officials who had already arrived were gathered around Zhou Lang, congratulating him. Even among the crowd, I spotted him immediately. At 25, he still looked as handsome as polished jade, refined, elegant, and graceful as he responded to his colleagues' compliments. He saw me. A familiar smile curved on his lips, and he gave me a slight nod. Before my rebirth, that single smile would have made my heart race. I would have hurried straight toward him. But now, I simply returned the nod and continued forward at an unhurried pace, walking directly to the front of the military officials' line. The hall instantly fell quiet. I could feel the many gazes resting on me, but I didn't turn around. The old prime minister at the head of the civil officials gave me a slight nod. I returned the courtesy. Footsteps approached from behind. I tilted my head slightly. It was Zhou Lang. Li Yueyuan, he said gently. Why aren't you waiting at the general's residence for me to come fetch you for the wedding procession? I lifted my hand to smooth my sleeve, avoiding the hand he tried to use to tug at it. Lord Zhou must be joking, I replied calmly. Today is not a rest day. Since I have returned from the campaign, it is only proper that I attend court and discuss state affairs. Zhou Lang froze for a brief moment. The old prime minister shot him a cold glance. Show some respect to General Li. Zhou Lang bowed politely to the prime minister before returning to his place in the line with a slightly disappointed expression. The crowd that had been surrounding him immediately dispersed, everyone returning to their proper positions. The Jingyang bell rang. Court began. I stood at the head of the military officials on the west side. Behind me, there weren't even enough men to fill a full row. On the east side, the civil officials stood in 3 complete rows. After the ceremonial chants praising the emperor, he allowed everyone to rise and the court discussions began. I listened in a haze, standing there lost in my own thoughts. Eventually the hall grew quiet again. The emperor deliberately drew out his words, his gaze settling on me. If none of my ministers have anything further to report, I immediately stepped out from the line and knelt on one knee. Your servant, General Li Yueyuan. humbly request that your majesty revoke the imperial marriage decree. Everyone was stunned. On the east side, the civil officials immediately broke into a low buzz of discussion. On the west side, among the military officers, there were only a few uneven breaths. The emperor's gaze slowly swept across the hall before he spoke calmly. General Li, what is the reason for this? I repeated the explanation I had prepared beforehand. Yesterday, while paying respects to the memorial tablets of my father and brother, I reflected on your majesty's great kindness. I am merely an orphaned woman, yet your majesty allowed me the chance to serve the court and earn merit for the nation. Suddenly I realized that if I were to marry and withdraw into the inner household, I would be failing your majesty's grace. I am only 24. I can still guard the borders for another decade or more, and make sure the northern tribes never dare invade again. The emperor paused for a moment, then nodded in approval. To see such sincerity and loyalty in you brings great comfort to my heart. Rise. I stood and returned to my place. Just then I caught Zhou Lang staring at me in confusion. The emperor turned to him. Lord Zhou, do you have any objections? Zhou Lang stepped out quickly. Your Majesty, I do have something to say. I deeply admire General Li's devotion to the nation, but the safety of the country should not require a woman to sacrifice her entire lifetime of happiness. He paused briefly, then continued with rising passion. If I were fortunate enough to marry General Li, I would never confine her to the inner chambers. If she wishes to go to the frontier, I will secure provisions for her. If she wishes to ride into battle, I will guard the rear and ensure her supplies. I am willing to be the shield behind her, protecting her so she has no worries. Who says that once a woman marries she must stay hidden in the household? I am willing to be the one who breaks those old customs and supports General Li in remaining the heroic woman who rides freely across the battlefield. If this had been before my rebirth, hearing such heartfelt words would have moved me to tears. But now, the civil officials' eyes all turned toward me again. Seeing that my expression remained calm, they began whispering among themselves. Lord Zhou truly understands righteousness. Another added, General Li begged for this marriage herself, and now she wants to cancel it on the very day of the wedding. That is rather. I sighed inwardly. My hearing was just too good. I had to pretend I hadn't heard any of it. No wonder my brother once said that the imperial court was a battlefield for scholars. No wonder my father had wanted me to read more books. Just then, someone from the military ranks stepped forward. Your Majesty, please allow me to say a few words. I raised an eyebrow. It was Zhao Gang, my deputy general. He was usually a man of few words. Why was he speaking up now? The emperor lifted a hand. General Zhao, speak freely. Zhao Gang gave me a complicated look before turning toward Zhou Lang. I'm a rough man. I can't deliver fine speeches like Lord Zhou. So I'll just ask one question. His voice grew firmer. When General Li was severely wounded and unconscious, she was still clutching the jade pendant you gave her. She was calling your name even while hovering between life and death. She fought her way back alive to marry you. So why was it that you had already married someone else? Zhou Lang froze. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Zhao Gang, however, seemed unstoppable now, like troops pouring out of a city gate. General Li didn't mind that you were already married. That shows her generosity. But that doesn't mean the soldiers under her command accept it. If this marriage hadn't been something she asked for herself, you'd have been dragged into an alley with a sack over your head a long time ago. Now that General Li no longer wants to marry you, why are you still talking? Everything you just said, what soldier in the army couldn't do that? Who couldn't do it better than you? I shot Zhao Gang a sharp look, signaling for him to hold back. Speaking so bluntly about throwing a sack over someone's head in the middle of court. Was this really how I trained him? If you were going to do something like that, you were supposed to do it quietly. Of course Zhou Lang seized the opportunity. Your Majesty, I accuse General Zhao of openly threatening a court official. This is blatant disregard for the law. But the emperor simply replied calmly. I was the one who told General Zhao to speak freely. Lord Zhou, you still haven't answered his question. Zhou Lang's hand, which had been pointing at Zhao Gang, froze in midair. A moment later, he dropped to his knees with a heavy bow, his voice thick with emotion. Your Majesty, I had my reasons. 2 years ago, Li Yueyuan led a lone force deep into enemy territory and vanished without any news. Everyone believed that unit would never return. I narrowed my eyes as I remembered. That was the mission when I led 2,000 personal guards on a surprise attack behind enemy lines. I had moved only at night and hidden during the day for an entire month before striking the camp of Amuhan Khan and pushing the northern front 500 miles forward. Zhou Lang continued, his voice trembling. I worried about her day and night. Several times I nearly set out for the northern frontier to find her. I even prepared a coffin so I could follow her in death if the worst happened. But then my mother suddenly fell gravely ill. The physician said she would not survive the winter. Her final wish was simply to see me married, and the family line continued. I was already 23. As a son, filial duty comes first. So with tears in my eyes, I agreed to marry and bring good fortune to the household. I clicked my tongue silently. Zhou Lang truly had a remarkable tongue. Back when we studied together, I had admired how eloquent he was. Compared to my blunt father and brother, he seemed infinitely more refined. At that moment, the sorrow on Zhou Lang's face suddenly vanished. A faint smile even appeared at the corner of his lips. Perhaps heaven was moved by my filial devotion. After the wedding, my mother's health miraculously improved. She is still alive today, and last year my wife even gave birth to a son. I simply cannot bring myself to be such a heartless man as to cast aside my wife just to marry Li Yueyuan. I stood there dumbfounded. After knowing him for so many years, I had never realized he could change expressions faster than flipping the pages of a book. Before my rebirth, I would have believed every word. But now, I was no longer that naive girl. Voices of agreement came from the civil officials. So it was a marriage to bring good fortune to an ill parent. That is understandable. Lord Zhou's filial devotion is truly exemplary. I rubbed my ear and asked with a faint smile, "Then let me ask you something. If you care so deeply about your wife and refused to wrong her, why didn't you refuse when I requested the imperial marriage decree in court? If you accepted because you were touched by my feelings back then, why are you arguing now that I no longer wish to marry you?" Zhou Lang looked like a duck with its neck suddenly grabbed. He opened his mouth but could only stand there speechless. The civil officials who had been praising him moments ago fell silent as well, their gazes turning complicated. They were all foxes in human skin. None of them were fools. The emperor narrowed his eyes but spoke evenly. "Minister of the Court of Judicial Review, investigate the medical records of Lord Zhou's mother over the past few years. If even one detail fails to match his statement, it will be considered deceiving the throne." The minister immediately stepped forward to accept the order. Zhou Lang's pupils shrank sharply. He began knocking his head against the floor. "I would never dare deceive your majesty. Please investigate and see the truth." The emperor waved a sleeve and rose to his feet. "I am tired. As for General Li's marriage, we will discuss it again after the investigation. Court is dismissed." After we sent the emperor off, the civil officials deliberately walked around Zhou Lang when passing him. The more they had flattered him before court began, the more they now avoided him. I shot Zhao Gang a glare and turned to leave quickly. Zhao Gang said nothing, but he followed one step behind me. We had barely left the hall when Zhou Lang's voice called out from behind. "Li Yueyuan, wait." I stopped and turned. Zhou Lang came running after me, his hair crown crooked from the hurry. He tried to approach, but Zhao Gang blocked him 2 steps away. After catching his breath, Zhou Lang asked, "What's gotten into you today? Has someone been spreading rumors about me in front of you?" I narrowed my eyes slightly. "Do you have something to hide from me?" Zhou Lang's gaze flickered for an instant before he put on a wounded expression. "Li Yueyuan, I have always been open and honest with you. Heaven and earth can bear witness." I curled my lips slightly. "Then why ask such a question?" Zhou Lang adjusted his hair crown and cleared his throat. "Over the past few years in court, I've spoken bluntly and offended many colleagues. If anyone has been talking behind my back to you, it must be because they're jealous. They're afraid that if I marry you, my influence will grow even stronger." I didn't know much about the tangled schemes of the court, but I did know one thing. Whatever your enemy tries hardest to hide or protect, that is their weak point. Back when I infiltrated enemy territory alone, that was exactly how I found Amuhan Khan's main camp. I replied calmly. No one has said anything to me. I just suddenly realized I don't feel that eager to get married anymore. Zhou Lang let out a sigh of relief and was about to say more when the chief palace attendant came hurrying over. General Li, His Majesty summons you to the imperial study. I nodded and followed him. But as I passed Zhao Gang, I clearly sensed the hostility radiating from him. I glanced sideways. He was staring at Zhou Lang with murderous intensity. As usual, I patted his shoulder. All right, let's go. Don't stand around here. I had meant for him to go back. He was a rough soldier. If he kept clashing with civil officials, he might survive a battlefield but die from impeachment instead. But he followed behind me anyway. I turned back and waved at him. He acted as if he hadn't seen it and stayed exactly one step behind me. I sighed. I would deal with him properly later. Girl, sit down and chat with me for a while. The emperor sat by an old tea table and beckoned me over. I didn't stand on ceremony. After a brief bow, I sat down boldly across from him. I stared at the complicated tea set, unsure where to even begin. The emperor brewed tea skillfully as he spoke slowly. What you said in court today moved me deeply. It reminded me of your father. I straightened my posture a little and lowered my head respectfully, waiting for him to continue. The emperor handed me a cup of tea. Back then, when the northern tribe swept south all the way to Jiangbei, my father fled with the court to Jiangnan. Only I stayed behind. I was a prince, but I was prepared to die defending the country. Then your father arrived with 2,000 soldiers of the Li army and launched a surprise attack. Against overwhelming odds, he won. That victory allowed me to hold Jiangbei and showed the southern court that the tribes were not invincible. I carefully accepted the tea. Thank you, Your Majesty. The emperor continued reminiscing. In the battle to cross the Yellow River, your father knew the first troops across would certainly die. Yet he went first himself. As the great general, he led from the front. Because of that, the soldiers behind him advanced without fear. Before he left, he asked me for only one thing: to take care of his 2 children. I failed to protect your brother. But you, girl. My nose stung and I sniffed softly, still saying nothing. Then the emperor's tone suddenly hardened. Zhao Gang said in court that you were once gravely wounded and unconscious. Why do all your reports only mention minor injuries? The hand holding my teacup trembled slightly. I forced a smile. I didn't want you to worry. I was afraid you might recall me from the front lines halfway through the campaign. The emperor set his teacup down with a heavy thud. I believed your injuries were minor and approved your plan to counterattack immediately after that setback. But did you ever consider that if you had gone deep into enemy territory while severely wounded and never returned, how I would explain that to your father? I quickly put down the cup, rolled up my left sleeve and smiled. It wasn't as serious as Zhao Gang made it sound. Just this knife scar on my arm. It healed in 2 or 3 days and didn't affect my movements. Besides, that surprise attack succeeded, didn't it? And look at me now. I'm still alive and kicking. The emperor glanced at the long scar. A flash of pain crossed his eyes before he snorted coldly. Falsifying an injury report is also deceiving the throne. Go call Zhao Gang in. Let him speak. Otherwise you'll just keep lying. I slowly got up and opened the door of the imperial study. If the emperor questions you later, don't go spouting nonsense again. If you do, once we're back in camp, you won't like what happens. I warned Zhao Gang quietly as I led him inside. This time he nodded obediently, and I finally relaxed a little. I didn't sit down again. Instead, I stood beside him in case he lost control. Zhao Gang was about to kneel when the emperor spoke first. General Zhao, no need for formalities. Tell me this. You said in court that General Li was gravely wounded and unconscious. Why have I never seen this mentioned in her reports? Zhao Gang froze and turned to look at me. Why are you looking at me? Was I supposed to tell you I deceived the emperor by writing that it was a minor injury? I kicked him lightly. The emperor asked you a question. Cat got your tongue. Zhao Gang didn't dodge the kick. Instead, he asked quietly. So, how exactly should I answer? Do the 2 of you take me for deaf or blind? The emperor snapped. Tell the truth or I will charge you both with deceiving the throne. Zhao Gang immediately dropped to his knees and even tugged at the hem of my robe. I had no choice but to kneel beside him. With a third person present, I could not act too spoiled or overly favored. It would set a bad example for my subordinates. Zhou Lang cleared his throat and began slowly. After that defeat, the general fought on despite her injuries so that more of our brothers could retreat safely. But she lost too much blood and fell unconscious for an entire day and night. I was the one who carried her back to camp, so I heard her murmuring in her sleep. When the general woke up, she immediately wrote a report requesting permission to fight again, and gathered the men to discuss strategy. She said the enemy would never expect us to launch a counterattack right after a defeat, and that we should push that element of surprise to the extreme. That was how the later raid on Amuhan Khan's main camp came about, the victory that turned the entire situation around. I had not expected him to remember my words from 2 years ago so clearly. The emperor tapped lightly on the tea table and looked up again. But even so, why did she personally have to go? She was wounded. Zhou Lang replied. We tried to persuade the general not to go, but she said the mission was extremely dangerous and the chances of success were low. Whoever we sent might believe they were simply being sacrificed as cannon fodder. Even if they did not abandon the mission halfway, the surprise attack would lose much of its impact. Only if she led the force personally would the 2,000 soldiers have the morale to carry it out. And only then would the main army waiting to support us have the confidence not to give up on that isolated force. The emperor's tapping suddenly stopped. When no one spoke for a long moment, I raised my eyes to look at him. His gaze was fixed on me, his eyes slightly red. It felt as though he was looking through me, seeing someone from long ago. When our eyes met, he tilted his head back slightly, his voice thick with emotion. You push yourself too hard, girl. I do not want to send you to the frontier anymore. You are already 24. It is time you gave Old Lee a descendant. I lowered my head again. But I do not want to marry anyone for the rest of my life. Zhou Lang's fists, resting on his knees, suddenly clenched. The emperor took a sip of tea to steady his voice. Stand up, and tell me honestly, what grievance has made you lose heart so suddenly? All those roundabout explanations earlier did not sound like you at all. Zhou Lang helped me to my feet. He turned to look at me, his expression full of confusion. I closed my eyes. Once again I saw the scene from my previous life, our wedding night. After I removed my clothes, the eagerness on Zhou Lang's face had suddenly turned into shock and disgust. From that moment on, he refused to come anywhere near me. How many old wounds did I have on my body? Even I could not remember. The scars I once wore proudly as badges of honor had truly frightened him away. All the sweet words, all the vows of eternal love, when faced with the blunt reality of his physical rejection, they became nothing but lies. My dignity, my pride. In that moment he shattered them into pieces. If even Zhou Lang, who had known me since childhood, could not accept it, then who possibly could? Perhaps sensing my distress, the emperor spoke urgently, cutting off my thoughts. Girl, listen to me. You are not some lonely orphan who must carry everything by yourself. Tell me what happened. I will make the decision for you. At those words, tears burst from my eyes like a flood. I could not stop sobbing. The emperor grew flustered. Girl, why are you crying now? General Li, please rein in your divine powers. Your subordinate is still standing here watching. I paused and opened my eyes, glancing at Zhou Lang. His mouth was slightly open, but no words came out. His left hand hovered in front of me, trembling faintly. So even he was afraid of me? Was I really that frightening? Stubbornly, I turned my back to them, my shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Then Zhou Lang placed a hand on my shoulder and pressed down gently. It was the same way I used to comfort him after a lost battle. Remembering my position, I quickly wiped my face with my sleeve and turned back around. I'm fine, I said softly. Sorry to worry you. But my voice sounded nothing like the one I usually used in the army. Zhou Lang's gaze looked different too. When I turned, his hand had not fully withdrawn, and his fingers brushed against my cheek. His breathing immediately became even more uneven than mine had been earlier. A soft cough came from the emperor. Zhou Lang instantly pulled his hand back and turned his face away. That was when I noticed the faint redness on the tip of his ear. Finally my sobbing stopped. When I turned again, I saw the emperor watching me with a faint smile on his lips. As soon as our eyes met, he quickly lowered his gaze and took a sip of tea before speaking as if nothing had happened. So tell me, what exactly caused the commander of my 3 armies to lose her composure like this? I straightened my back immediately and rolled up my left sleeve again, revealing the long scar. Scars like this, I have so many on my body that even I cannot remember the exact number anymore. Before I could finish speaking, Zhou Gang suddenly cut in. 8. 3 from blades, 5 from arrows. The knife wound on her abdomen is the longest. The arrow wound on her shoulder was the deepest. The arrow wound near her left chest only recently healed, and it was the closest to a vital spot. I quickly turned and glared at him, signaling for him to stop talking. Sure enough, the emperor slammed his teacup onto the table with a loud bang. How many more things have you been hiding from me? Do I really have to punish you before you take me seriously? I immediately dropped to my knees, my head lowered, my voice still hoarse from crying. I accept any punishment, Your Majesty. I will submit to whatever you decide. The emperor waved a hand impatiently. Enough, enough. Get out. Go back to your general's residence. Your punishment is to stay inside for half a month and not step outside. Focus on healing your injuries properly. Wang Delu, inform the Imperial Medical Bureau. Tell those old physicians to bring a female doctor, and go examine her injuries at the general's residence. I want Director Zhang to report the results to me personally. I scrambled to my feet and slipped out of the Imperial study as fast as possible. Behind me, I heard the Emperor's voice again, still annoyed. Zhou Gang, you stay. Well, that is what you get for talking too much. Let him deal with the Emperor's anger himself. I glanced at Zhou Gang's helpless expression before slamming the study door shut with a loud bang. My chest began to ache faintly again. It must have been from losing control of my emotions and crying earlier. In my previous life, it had been tonight that my old injuries flared up, and I died. This time I could not lose my life so easily. It would not be worth it. By the time my carriage returned to the residence, it was mid-morning. The place was still decorated with lanterns and red banners. The wedding procession waited outside the gate, and more townspeople had gathered to watch the spectacle. Zhou Lang had arrived before me. He was even sitting on a tall horse, dressed in bright red with a large ceremonial flower tied to his chest. I narrowed my eyes. Pulling aside the carriage curtain, I jumped down angrily. Before I could speak, Zhou Lang had already dismounted and hurried toward me with a tender expression. Li Weiyuan, you're finally back. The Emperor did not give you a hard time, did he? Suddenly I realized I had never truly understood this man before. But the lingering pain in my chest left me in no mood to deal with him. I adjusted the sleeves of my official robes and said calmly, "Move aside. I'm going back inside." Just then, the palace messenger arrived to deliver the imperial decree. In a high-pitched voice he announced, "By decree, Cavalry General Li Weiyuan concealed the true extent of her injuries and failed to report them. As punishment, she is confined to her residence for 1 month to reflect on her actions." So ordered. 1 month? Was it not supposed to be 2 weeks? What nonsense had that loudmouth Zhou Gang told the Emperor now? The watching crowd looked stunned, but no one mocked me. Instead, their gazes held a bit more respect. Zhou Lang, however, frowned. Still, the decree had come at exactly the right moment. I casually accepted the scroll and turned to the wedding procession. I've been punished and I'm in a terrible mood. The wedding is cancelled today. Everyone go home. I walked past Zhou Lang and entered the residence. Then I barked at the guards by the gate. "Didn't you hear the decree? Close the doors. And remove all this red decoration. It's irritating just looking at it." The stunned gazes of Zhou Lang and the others were shut outside the gates. Soon afterward, a guard came to report that people from the Imperial Medical Bureau had arrived. I allowed them inside. Director Zhang personally checked my pulse and frowned. "General, your heart meridian is not flowing smoothly. Are you still injured somewhere?" I answered calmly. In the final battle in the northern frontier, the enemy pretended to surrender. While I was accepting their surrender, someone shot a hidden arrow. It nearly struck a vital point. But more than a month has passed since we began the journey home, and the wound has already closed. Director Zhang stroked his white beard. "Do you still feel any discomfort at the wound?" I honestly told him about the faint pain still lingering in my chest. He nodded. It seems the surface has healed, but the internal injury to the heart meridian has not fully recovered. Would you allow the female physician to examine the wound and confirm? I nodded without thinking much of it. But when we entered my bedroom and the female physician asked me to loosen my clothing, panic suddenly flooded my mind. Once again, Zhou Lang's face appeared before me, the look of shock and disgust. The pain in my chest suddenly intensified. I bent over, clutching my chest tightly, my breathing growing rapid. General, I must apply the needles immediately. Forgive the offense. The female medical officer quickly helped me out of my court robe, guided me to lie flat on the bed, and efficiently loosened my inner garments. I heard her sharply draw in a breath, yet I did not dare open my eyes. I was afraid I might see the same expression on her face that Zhou Lang had worn. But after she began inserting the needles, I heard the indignation in her voice. Does the army not have armor? How did you end up with so many wounds? A clear soreness spread through the acupoints where the needles pierced. After a short while, my breathing steadied and the pressure eased. When I slowly opened my eyes, the woman was bending over, examining the scar across my abdomen. There was unmistakable pain in her expression. Relief washed over me and I spoke slowly. I do not have my father's strength nor my brother's height. And I certainly do not have Zhao Gang's sturdy build. If I wore full heavy armor, I would not even be able to swing a blade. So, I had no choice but to wear lighter scale armor. The female medical officer lifted her eyes to look at me and questioned again. But you are the commanding general. Should you not remain at the center of the army? How could the enemy possibly wound you? I fell silent for a few breaths before replying quietly. For the first 3 years I led the army, the reason the men tolerated a woman among them and were willing to call me general was not because of me. It was because of my father. Or my brother. Only 2 years ago, after that surprise raid, when I charged at the front and turned the battle around, did they truly accept me? The medical officer straightened and looked at me steadily. I met her gaze without wavering. Since then, whenever I move forward, the men charge with me until my position naturally returns to the center again. If I personally cut down one enemy, the brothers will fight to take down 3 more. Wherever my command banner goes, 3,000 men fight like 10,000. When something so worthwhile is possible, what does it matter if I take a few wounds? The barbarians thought that wounding me with a hidden arrow during their feigned surrender would throw our army into chaos and give them a chance to turn the tide. But when I finally opened my eyes, the battle was already over. The men were urging me to return to the capital. The medical officer suddenly bowed deeply to me. Please allow this humble official, Zhang Xiaoman, to pay her respects. I blinked in surprise. You are Zhang Xiaoman? The one people call Lady Zhang. Zhang Xiaoman nodded and began removing the needles from my body. My voice trembled slightly as I asked, I have heard you are skilled in the art of preserving beauty. In that case, is it possible to remove the scars on my body? After removing the last needle, Zhang Xiaoman began packing away her needle pouch. She looked puzzled. These are all medals of honor you earned while driving out the barbarians and securing the northern frontier. Why would you want them erased? Let me count them carefully so I can report properly to His Majesty. Warmth surged in my chest and my eyes grew hot. But when I saw she was about to start removing more of my clothing, I quickly sat up, tied my inner robe closed and could not help laughing. I was just punished for concealing my injuries in order to remain confined at home. And now you want to go report me? The imperial decree is still tucked in my court robe sleeve. Would you like to take a look? Zhang Xiaoman raised an eyebrow. That is strange. What I heard was that His Majesty granted you 1 full month of leave. And he specifically ordered the Imperial Medical Bureau to restore the general's health within that month. I paused in surprise. You do not believe me? Zhang Xiaoman said. His Majesty's written instruction is still with Director Zhang of the Medical Bureau. Would you like to see it? I stood up, threw on an outer robe and started toward the door. Zhang Xiaoman raised a hand to block me, her brows tightly furrowed. You were just at death's door moments ago, and you still will not let me examine your injuries properly? My heart skipped. In my previous life I had died on this very day. The symptoms at the beginning had been exactly like what I had just experienced. Sigh. The year of my birth sign had only passed 3 months, yet I had already visited the gates of death twice. No, counting the time I was struck by the hidden arrow and fell unconscious, that made 3 times. I quickly clasped my fists and bowed toward Zhang Xiaoman. Thank you for saving my life just now. Please examine whatever you need. I will cooperate fully. Only then did Zhang Xiaoman smile. That is better. If you do not take care of yourself, imagine how worried your soldiers would be. Now do it yourself. I need to examine your entire body. My face flushed red as I slowly removed my clothing. Zhang Xiaoman examined every detail carefully and asked many questions along the way. As I dressed again, I listened to her conclusions. The old wound across your abdomen looks frightening, but it does not affect your ability to bear children. However, if you wish to have children, the best time would be within the next 3 years. The arrow wound on your chest may appear healed on the surface, but the heart meridians that were damaged have not fully recovered. You must rest well and avoid intense emotional swings. Ideally, you should try to maintain a cheerful mood. So that was it. No wonder I had felt healed yet still found myself hovering near death twice today. After changing into a dark everyday robe, I left the bedroom with her. Director Zhang of the Imperial Medical Bureau and 2 elderly physicians listened to Zhang Xiaoman's report. They each took turns checking my pulse, discussed quietly among themselves, and finally wrote a prescription. Also prescribed several jars of the palace scar removal ointment for General Li. Zhang Xiaoman added softly after reviewing the prescription. Director Zhang slapped his forehead. Look at this old man's memory. I have been thinking of General Li only as a general and forgot that General Li is also a young lady. I will add it immediately. My heart trembled slightly, and I gave Zhang Xiaoman a grateful smile. I had just escorted the physicians to the front gate when Zhao Gang came riding in on horseback. Behind him followed a squad of imperial guards in bright yellow armor. I frowned at him. What did you go tell His Majesty again? How did my 2 weeks of confinement turn into an entire month? Zhao Gang dismounted and stepped forward. I simply reported the truth, that after you were struck by the hidden arrow, you were unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. Zhang Xiaoman sucked in a sharp breath and turned to glare at me. 3 days and 3 nights unconscious? How did that turn into just opening your eyes when you described it? I scratched my head. I was out that long? I have no memory of it at all. Zhao Gang nodded firmly. I personally led men to cut down those beasts who staged the false surrender. When we returned, you were still unconscious. I could not possibly remember it wrong. So the final battle had lasted 3 full days. Why had they only reported 1 day to me? Who had taught them that habit? Looking at the imperial guards behind him reminded me of the emperor. I could not help sighing. I would have to help Zhao Gang conceal the truth. Otherwise they would all be punished. The official report to the emperor already stated the battle lasted 1 day. That responsibility would fall on me now. At this point I had too many burdens to worry about adding 1 more. At worst it meant 2 extra weeks of confinement. Still, I raised an eyebrow at the imperial guards. What is all this supposed to mean? Zhao Gang replied. By His Majesty's order, we are stationed here to guard the general's residence and ensure you properly rest and recover. I snorted. Where is the order? Let me see it. I am not so easily fooled. Zhao Gang actually produced a handwritten imperial note and handed it to me. I snatched it, looked it over, and snorted again before tossing it back to him. Well then. My house arrest had officially become full confinement. I am tired. I am going to take another nap. Do as you please. As the imperial guard surrounded the gates of my residence, I dropped that remark and turned to walk back inside. I slept until midday before Zhao Gang woke me for lunch. The thought that for the next month I would not need to wake early for court, and would not have to see Zhou Lang's face, instantly lifted my mood. In my previous life, today had been my wedding day. In this life, I had managed to keep my life intact. No matter how I looked at it, I had come out ahead. Rubbing my sleepy eyes, I took my seat at the head of the dining table and shouted boldly, "Bring the wine." Zhao Gang did not move. The physician said you cannot drink until your injuries are fully healed. Half of my good mood vanished. Then I glanced at the dishes on the table. Why is everything so bland? Zhao Gang accepted a bowl of medicine from a guard and set it in front of me. The physician said you must watch your diet while taking medicine. I looked at the pitch-black broth that smelled bitter, and my face scrunched up. The other half of my good mood disappeared as well. While eating, I glared at Zhou Gang. What are you still standing there for? Trying to annoy me? There is no way I can finish all these dishes by myself. Zhou Gang immediately turned to leave. I slammed my chopsticks onto the table. I told you to sit down and eat. Can you not understand plain words? Zhou Gang froze, then quickly fetched another bowl and pair of chopsticks, filled it with rice, and sat down across from me, quietly eating. He sat with his back to the door, the light behind him so I could not clearly see his face. He picked up food carefully, taking small bites of rice. I tapped my bowl against the table again. What is wrong with you today? From the morning court until now you have been acting strange. This is not like you at all. Zhou Gang's chopstick stopped in midair. He looked up at me but did not speak. I snorted. The false report about the battle is on me alone. I wrote the report anyway. What are you so nervous about? Zhou Gang slowly set down his bowl and lowered his head. I tossed a chopstick toward him. Did His Majesty already scold you? Say something. What exactly did he say? Zhou Gang caught the chopstick and handed it back to me with both hands. His Majesty did scold me. He said I failed to protect you. I froze for a moment before speaking softly as I accepted the chopstick. It was my own carelessness. I thought once I accepted their letter of surrender, the war that had dragged on for more than 20 years would finally end. When I was 4 years old, my mother took my brother and me south, saying the barbarians had invaded. My father was not with us. When I was 5, my mother died north of the river. My 10-year-old brother hid with me inside the cargo hold of a ferry and carried me across the river. A year later, my father finally found us among the refugees in the south. By then he had already become a great general. He brought us to live in a grand house, but after only a few days he left again for the north. It was not until I was 8 that my father had time to return home. Worried I would never marry, he hired someone to teach me how to read and write. My nose stung slightly and I sniffed. Zhou Gang placed his own handkerchief on the table and gently pushed it toward me. I shot him an annoyed look. I was just feeling sentimental for a moment. Did you really think I was about to cry? Zhou Gang actually nodded. I laughed in irritation. I am not that fragile. I just feel that peaceful days like this, sitting quietly and eating a meal, are truly hard to come by. Zhou Gang froze for a moment, then nodded heavily again and lowered his head to eat. But after only a short while, his eyes filled with tears. I handed him my silk handkerchief and said softly, all right. No matter how difficult things were, we made it through. We owe it to the brothers who died to keep living well." Zhou Gang immediately burst into tears, grabbed my handkerchief, and ran out of the dining hall. I curled my lips slightly. Suddenly, the embarrassment from earlier this morning did not feel quite so humiliating anymore. That made us even. Lowering my gaze to the handkerchief still resting beside me, I suddenly realized I might have been a bit rash just now. I should have handed him his own handkerchief back. How did I end up pulling out my own instead? After finishing the rest of the food and drinking the medicine, I prepared to take a walk in the back courtyard to help with digestion. For dishes and a soup were a bit much. I could not waste food and now I was stuffed. I should remind the kitchen that 2 dishes would be enough for dinner. I had already stepped out of the dining hall when I turned back, picked up Zhou Gang's handkerchief and tucked it into my sleeve. If I ran into him during my walk, I could return it and take mine back. At noon in spring, the sunlight was bright and warm. I found Zhou Gang in the training yard inside the residence. He had stripped off his shirt and was striking a wooden training dummy with fierce punches and kicks. Sweat flew off him in clear, glittering droplets. Across his strong right arm ran a scar that twisted like a centipede. He had gotten that wound while blocking a blade meant for me. I remembered it clearly. Then I suddenly realized something else. He also remembered every scar on my body. The location, the depth, the severity, the number of them. Almost exactly the same as Zhang Xiaoman's examination. Wait a second. Did that mean while I was unconscious this time, he had seen everything? I immediately strode over and demanded sharply, "Zhou Gang, answer me this. Why do you know the scars on my body so clearly? Your description matched the physician's report exactly." Zhao Gang suddenly froze. After a moment, his face turned red, and his Adam's apple bobbed. That instantly made my temper flare. I rolled up the sleeves of my casual robe and climbed onto the training platform. Come on. Beating up a wooden dummy does not make you a hero. Fight me instead. But Zhao Gang immediately raised both hands over his head in surrender. The physician said you must rest. And you just finished eating. I clenched my teeth and shouted loudly. Guards. 5 nearby personal guards immediately lined up at the edge of the platform. General Zhao feels like training. You 5 can spar with him properly. With that, I stepped down from the platform and stood nearby with my hands clasped behind my back. Zhao Gang glanced at me, then leapt onto the platform in 2 strides and barked at the 5 men. All of you together. End it quickly. Do not delay the general's midday rest. The 5 men all turned to look at me. I laughed in irritation and waved a hand toward the platform. They all jumped up at once. Less than half a quarter hour later, all 5 were defeated. I scolded coldly. You have me backing you up and you still hold back like this? Did none of you eat? One of them clutched his stomach and said weakly, General, it is not time for our shift change yet. We really have not eaten. I fell silent for a moment, then waved my hand. No wonder you are all weak as noodles. Go. Eat first in the mess hall. Tomorrow morning you will run 5 extra laps. Then I glanced at Zhao Gang, who stood on the platform with his arms crossed, looking extremely pleased with himself. I turned and walked away. Yet the image of him fighting shirtless against 5 opponents stayed etched in my mind. Even after closing and opening my eyes, the scene replayed again and again before me. By the time I lay down for my midday rest, Zhao Gang was still in my mind, fighting back and forth. Shirtless. His powerful muscles swayed in front of my eyes, from shoulders to abdomen, every line clear and defined. Then suddenly a thought struck me, and I jolted awake. I quickly got dressed and went to find Zhao Gang. After searching the residence and failing to see him, I called over a guard to ask. Then I headed straight toward the main gate. Open the gate, I ordered the guard. The guard opened it, and the imperial guard stationed outside immediately turned and saluted. General, you cannot leave the residence. I ignored him and scanned the surroundings. I did not see the person I was looking for. Instead, Zhao Gang suddenly appeared from some unknown corner and saluted. General, are you heading out? If there is something important, you may simply order me. Seeing him fully dressed in neat armor, I snorted. I want to ask you. But feeling the eyes of the imperial guards on us, and noticing passers-by on the street, I stopped mid-sentence. I grabbed his arm and pulled him inside the gate. Close the gate. After walking a few steps deeper into the residence, I waved the nearby guards away. Once they had retreated, I turned back and looked directly into Zhao Gang's eyes. Then I asked quietly, are the scars on my body really that frightening? Zhao Gang froze. My nose suddenly stung and I turned to leave. He quickly ran ahead and blocked my path. Why would you ask something like that? So, had I only embarrassed myself? I should not have asked. My eyes grew warm as I hurried past him toward my bedroom. General, you are the most beautiful woman under heaven. The shout from behind made me stop in my tracks. The guards who had scattered earlier began popping their heads out one by one, echoing loudly. General Zhao is right. We think so too. I covered my mouth with my hand and ran back to my room. The moment the door closed, I buried my head under the blanket, laughing and crying at the same time. This was bad. My emotions had gotten too intense again. My chest began to ache faintly. I quickly threw off the blanket and shouted toward the window. Go fetch physician Zhang Xiaoman immediately. Then I pressed a hand to my chest and lay flat, trying to stretch out my breathing until it gradually steadied. Zhao Gang glanced at me through the window and immediately turned to leave in a hurry. But he had not been gone long before he returned with Zhang Xiaoman. When Zhang Xiaoman entered my room, she had a cloth bundle slung over her shoulder. Zhao Gang remained standing outside the window, sweat glistening on his forehead in the sunlight. Seeing the confusion on my face, Zhang Xiaoman spoke first. His Majesty heard that your old wounds suddenly relapsed earlier and that you nearly died. So he ordered me to stay here in your residence and watch over you at all times. She dropped the bundle on the table and hurried over to check my pulse. What did you do this time? I already used acupuncture on you this morning. Why has it flared up again this afternoon? I glanced toward Zhao Gang outside the window, who looked extremely tense, and did not know how to answer. Why is your pulse beating so fast? Zhang Xiaoman frowned and followed my gaze toward the window. She immediately stood up, walked over and shut the window. Then she returned to sit beside the bed and asked softly, "When was your last monthly cycle?" I thought for a moment. "About 2 weeks ago." Zhang Xiaoman nodded. "No wonder your pulse and blood flow are so active." I was completely confused by what she meant. Then she leaned closer and whispered into my ear. "Could it be that you are feeling spring fever?" The memory of my midday dream flashed into my mind, and my face instantly turned bright red. Zhang Xiaoman clicked her tongue. "Well, that is not surprising. After all, today was originally supposed to be your wedding day. Tonight would have been your wedding night." My heart suddenly clenched again. Zhang Xiaoman's fingers pressing my wrist tightened immediately, and she spoke hurriedly. "I was just joking. Do not get upset. Take a deep breath first. I will get the heart medicine." She hurried to her bundle, rummaged through it, and took out a small porcelain bottle. Then she poured out a pill and fed it into my mouth. She also called toward the window, "Bring a bowl of warm water." The figure outside the window finally left. I swallowed the pill and said softly, "I am sorry. I frightened you." Zhang Xiaoman froze for a moment, then checked my pulse again before finally letting out a breath of relief. "Good. The medicine is working. Keep this little bottle on you. If the symptoms appear again, take 1 pill. No more than 3 in a day." I nodded, feeling a bit better. I sat up, took the porcelain bottle and tucked it into my clothes. "Thank you. And please stop calling yourself this humble official. It sounds like we are in court, and it makes me want to fall asleep." "All right then." Zhang Xiaoman grinned widely. "In that case, I will call you." Before she could finish, I continued her sentence. "My name is Li Weiyuan. I was born on the 15th day of the 8th month. My father is a rough soldier who never studied. He once heard a poor scholar in the village talk about the phrase, 'When flowers bloom and the moon is full, families reunite.' So he named me Weiyuan. But now..." I let out a small laugh and did not finish the thought. Zhang Xiaoman spoke quietly instead. "My name is Zhang Xiaoman, though I was not born on the day called Xiaoman. My parents both died early. My grandfather traveled 1,000 miles to find me, and the day he finally did happen to be the Xiaoman solar term. I never met my parents." I lifted my eyes, wanting to comfort her, but Xiaoman gently patted my shoulder and changed the subject. "When I was coming here just now, I heard people talking outside. Some said the general's residence was bullying others by canceling a wedding at the last moment. Others said General Li is arrogant because she is favored by the emperor, daring even to refuse an imperial marriage decree. That must be why His Majesty surrounded your residence. Some even said that since General Li can frighten away the barbarians, she must look terrifying. Minister Zhou was the third-rank scholar 3 years ago, after all. For him to take her as a secondary wife would already be her good fortune. Yet she still dared to break the engagement." I fell silent. Somehow those words felt familiar. It seemed I had heard things like that countless times before. The more I heard them, the more insecure I became. And the more convinced I was that I had to marry Zhou Lang. After finishing, Zhang Xiaoman's gaze fell just below the right side of my collar. She spoke angrily. "These long-tongued gossips enjoy the peace brought by heroes, yet they slander the price those heroes pay. They are less than human." Just beneath my right collarbone lay the scar from an arrow wound. Fortunately, I had crouched half a step to the left at that moment. Zhang Xiaoman studied my expression and asked softly, "Are you all right? What exactly happened? If you are willing, you can tell me." I looked at her but said nothing. Zhang Xiaoman hurriedly added, "Please do not misunderstand. I only feel that you might have something weighing on your heart, and I wanted to find the root of it. From your reaction earlier, I guessed it might be related to the wedding." Lowering my eyes, I brushed my fingers across the old scar. It still ached faintly on rainy days. Then I simply let out a soft laugh. The marriage I just cancelled was the one I personally begged for in the throne hall. Does that not make it even more ridiculous? I didn't wait for her answer. I simply stood up and walked over to the round table. The jade pendant I had casually tossed aside yesterday lay in the corner, broken cleanly into 2 pieces. I bent down, picked them up, and set them on the table with a sharp clink. "This was the jade pendant Zhou Lang gave me before I went to war," I said. "A token of love. It stayed with me for 5 years, through life and death." I paused for a moment. "But yesterday it broke. So I went to the palace and asked His Majesty to cancel the marriage." Zhang Xiaoman's eyes widened. She leaned closer, studying the pendant pieces carefully before looking back at me. "Just like that?" she asked. I curled my lips into a faint smile. "Just like that." She stared at me for a few seconds, then clicked her tongue and smiled too. "Huh. A jade pendant breaking the day before the wedding. That's definitely a bad omen. But judging by how calm you look, you don't seem to regret it at all. If you've already let it go, I won't ask any more questions." I nodded lightly and said nothing else. Right then a knock sounded on the door. I went to open it. Zhao Gang met my eyes for a moment, then immediately glanced past me toward the round table, as if checking whether the pendant had really broken. I stepped aside openly so he could see. A small smile quickly appeared at the corner of his lips. I took the bowl from him. The water had cooled by then, so I drank it in one gulp and shoved the bowl back into his arms. "I'm fine now. Go stand farther away," I said. "And no eavesdropping." Zhao Gang turned around and left immediately, so stiff he almost seemed to be moving both arms and legs on the same side. When he stepped down the stairs, his foot slipped and he nearly stumbled. After steadying himself, the tips of his ears turned even redder. He scratched his head awkwardly and hurried away. I sighed, closed the door and turned around, only to find Xiaoman resting her chin in her hand, watching the whole scene like a play. I pushed open the window and glanced at the spring scenery outside before returning to the table. "Xiaoman, sit," I said, gesturing toward the chair. She nodded, poured 2 cups of tea and slowly sat down, propping her chin up as she looked at me. Her gaze drifted to the broken jade pendant pieces. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Perhaps because of her position, or perhaps because she didn't want to upset me, she never actually asked. I took a sip of tea and spoke calmly. "Since I was a child, this is the first time a man has ever given me a token of love. When I was 10, I caught a glimpse of Zhou Lang at the academy. One look, and I fell for that handsome face of his. At first, he treated me the same as everyone else. Gentle, polite, but distant. But one time I lost a fight with someone. I blurted out that my father was the great general. After that, he suddenly started treating me differently. He even personally taught me how to read and write. When he taught me, I worked harder than ever. My progress was so fast even the teacher praised me endlessly. My father couldn't help laughing. He said all the tutors in the capital couldn't discipline me, but this brat somehow managed to. He even said that once I came of age, he would personally go to the Zhou family to propose marriage. At that point I lowered my eyes and sipped my tea, falling silent for a long while. Xiaoman held it in as long as she could before finally asking, "And then what happened? How did things drag on until now?" I sniffed quietly. "When I was 16, my father led the army across the Yellow River, and never came back. After the 3-year mourning period ended, my brother died in battle as well. The Li family army's banner fell onto my shoulders. Zhou Lang gave me this jade pendant the day I set out for war. And that campaign lasted 5 years. Xiaoman sighed softly. So that's how it was. Fate really plays tricks on people. Then she patted the back of my hand gently. But maybe it's for the best. Vice Minister Zhou is extremely opportunistic, and old Madame Zhou is no easy person either. 2 months ago, I was invited to treat Lady Zhou. I happened to see old Madame Zhou chasing her with a cane. If Vice Minister Zhou hadn't stepped in and said her father was the commander of the Imperial Guards, and not someone they could afford to offend, she probably would have beaten her badly. I narrowed my eyes and let out a self-mocking laugh. 2 years ago, when my life and death were uncertain, he immediately attached himself to Commander Liu of the Imperial Guards, another man who held military power. So in his eyes, my 14 years of devotion had been nothing more than a military command token. I flicked my sleeve. The 2 jade fragments fell to the ground again, shattering into 7 or 8 smaller pieces. Xiaoman froze, but I simply lifted the corners of my lips. "Come on," I said. "I'll take you to pick a room." Xiaoman immediately slung her bundle over her shoulder and tilted her chin toward me. As I led the way, I deliberately slowed my pace so we could walk side by side. At first she insisted on staying half a step behind me. Eventually she relaxed and walked beside me as I introduced the residence. My father's main wife's quarters, my brother's room, and the ancestral hall where the spirit tablets of my parents and brother were kept. She chose a bedroom closest to mine and asked where she could boil medicine. So I took her to the back kitchen and casually told them dinner tonight would be for 3 people, 4 dishes and a soup. Xiaoman carefully explained my dietary restrictions to the kitchen staff, and even instructed them on proper daily meal combinations. The head cook, who used to be the commander of the army kitchen camp before retiring, listened attentively without the slightest complaint. Xiaoman found a corner of the kitchen and began personally preparing my evening medicine. I fetched 2 small stools, gave one to her, and sat quietly beside the medicine stove. From time to time she glanced at me, noticing I was lost in thought, but she didn't interrupt. Gradually the scent of cooking food and medicinal herbs blended together. The sizzling of stir-frying and the bubbling of the medicine pot filled the air. This was probably the simple warmth of ordinary life I had fought 5 years to earn. Suddenly Xiaoman handed me a handkerchief. I blinked in confusion. Only then did I realize that my clothes were already soaked with tears. "I have one," I said, reaching for my own silk handkerchief. But what I pulled out instead was Zhao Gang's square cloth. After lunch I had been so busy dealing with him that I had forgotten to return it. Xiaoman glanced at the cloth, then at me, and quietly withdrew her own handkerchief. I didn't use Zhao Gang's either. I tucked it back into my sleeve, stood up, and scooped a ladle of water from the jar to wash my face, drying it with my sleeve. Under Xiaoman's stunned gaze, I left the kitchen and went straight to the dining hall. The dishes were already on the table. Xiaoman was sitting there with her bowl. But Zhao Gang was nowhere to be seen. I was just about to call a guard when one of them rushed in. "General, something's wrong. General Zhao and Vice Minister Zhou are fighting outside the front gate." I slammed the table and stood up immediately, striding toward the gate. Behind me, Xiaoman hurried after me. "General, please don't get worked up again. This is already the 3rd time today." Before I even reached the gate, I could hear the commotion outside. "Open the gate," I said calmly. Outside, a crowd had gathered, surrounding Zhao Gang and Zhou Lang. Zhou Lang was sitting on the ground, bruised and battered. Zhao Gang was being loudly scolded by the onlookers. "Enough!" I shouted, my voice filled with anger. "My men are not yours to discipline." A scholar pointed at me. "So the rumors are true. General Li really is arrogant and overbearing." The crowd immediately started jeering. Zhou Lang struggled to stand and limped in front of me. "Everyone stop," he said gently. "If General Li hadn't defeated the barbarian tribes, we'd still be living in fear of another invasion." An old woman sighed. "Top scholar Zhou is just too kind. Even after she broke the engagement, he's still defending her. And General Li must be blind," someone else added. Ignoring the injured top scholar and protecting that brute who attacked him in broad daylight. Xiaoman looked at me worriedly. I simply waved a hand to reassure her and turned to my guard. "Bring a tea table and a chair. And a few plates of sunflower seeds and peanuts." The guard froze for a second but ran off. The crowd suddenly went quiet. "Go on," I said lazily. "Why did you stop performing? My snacks aren't even here yet." Zhou Lang turned to look at me, his expression chaotic. I lifted my chin toward him. "I'm not very learned," I said lightly. "Vice Minister Zhou, perhaps you could enlighten me. What scene were you just performing?" The chair was quickly brought over. I sat down calmly and beckoned Zhao Gang. "Come here. Massage my legs. Standing while watching a show is tiring." Zhao Gang froze for a moment before quickly kneeling on one knee beside me. I placed my right leg over his knee, resting my head lazily on my hand. "Well," I asked, "Vice Minister Zhou, why so quiet? Don't you even know what play you're acting in?" Someone among the imperial guards couldn't hold back a laugh. Zhou Lang's expression changed immediately, but he still said nothing. I lowered my gaze toward Zhao Gang, whose face was burning red. What are you waiting for? I said. Do you need me to teach you how to massage legs? Zhou Gang glanced up at me, as if confirming I wasn't joking. Then he cautiously began kneading my calf with both fists. I closed my eyes slightly in comfort. If Vice Minister Zhou doesn't know what to perform, I said lazily, then I'll choose the play myself. Let's start with Red-Maned Horse, the part where she waits faithfully in the cold cave for more than 10 years. Zhou Lang's face changed drastically. This is utterly indecent. Just then the tea table and snacks arrived. I grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds, cracked one open, and flicked the shell toward him. I'm watching a play in my own courtyard. Who exactly did I offend? Someone's willing to perform, and I'm willing to watch. What's the problem? Zhou Lang brushed the shells off his clothes and pointed at me, unable to speak. Where's that famous eloquence you used to debate scholars every day? I said. Can't even perform a play? Want me to teach you? Xiaoman burst out laughing without any attempt to hide it. Zhou Lang's chest rose and fell rapidly. He shot her a glare, but that only made her laugh harder. Soon even the imperial guard stopped holding back. Laughter erupted across the front of the general's residence. Zhou Lang looked around the crowd before finally shouting loudly, Li Yueyuan, today was supposed to be our wedding day. Breaking the engagement in public wasn't enough for you. Why humiliate me like this? I withdrew my leg and stood up, hands behind my back, walking slowly toward him. I slapped away the finger he was pointing at my face. Then answer me this, I said coldly. When I went to war, what promise did you make to me? When I personally led troops deep behind enemy lines, what did you do? You said if I returned alive, you would marry me. But when my life and death were uncertain, you immediately clung to the commander of the Imperial Guards. Now that you've climbed so high, why are you still standing at my gate? I leaned closer slightly. Unless, after securing the capital's military power, you also want control of the border army? The Imperial Guards instantly stopped laughing, tightening their grip on their spears. Whispers spread through the crowd. Now that General Li says it, that actually makes sense. Vice Minister Zhou controls the Ministry of Revenue too, the grain and supplies. Zhou Lang's eyes widened. You're slandering me, I said coldly. Then since I've already cancelled the engagement, why are you still making a scene at my gate? Zhou Lang's eyes turned red again. He pointed at me once more and shouted angrily, Li Yueyuan, last month you were the one who asked the emperor for permission to marry me. I already hosted banquets for my colleagues, and now you want to cancel it? What do you take me for? Do you want the whole city laughing at me? I immediately frowned and bent slightly, clutching my chest. Xiaoman, my chest hurts. Xiaoman rushed over and checked my pulse. In an instant she understood. She turned and shouted urgently to the Imperial Guards, hurry and report to His Majesty. Vice Minister Zhou has provoked General Li at her residence and caused her old wounds to flare up. I had just given Xiaoman a knowing smile when suddenly my feet left the ground. Before I could react, someone had already lifted me into his arms and rushed back into the residence. Zhang Xiaoman chased after him, shouting, General Zhao, slow down. The general can't handle that kind of jolting right now. Zhao Gang immediately slowed his pace, though he didn't stop moving. He lowered his eyes and glanced at me with deep concern. That look was burning, anxious and intense. It made my heart tremble. My face flushed instantly. I didn't dare meet his eyes and could only bury my face deep in his chest. Beside my ear, his heartbeat thundered like drums, strong and steady against my eardrum. The longer I listened, the more my own heartbeat lost its rhythm, pounding wildly in that tiny space between us. Not good. If this keeps up, the heart condition from my arrow wound really will flare up again. Behind us, the heavy gates of the residence closed with a dull thud, cutting off Zhou Lang's irritating shouting. Zhao Gang, put me down, I muttered from his arms. We're almost there. Just hold on a little longer. His voice was tight, and his arms tightened even more, as if afraid I might fall. I couldn't help raising a hand and lightly punching his solid chest in embarrassment. You big fool. I was putting on a show for them. Did you really believe it? Put me down already. We had reached the doorway to my bedroom. Zhao Gang finally stopped and asked cautiously, Really? I lifted my head and met his deep, dark eyes. As if I'd lied to you, I said irritably. Go eat. The food's getting cold. Zhou Gang stared at me again and again, making sure my complexion looked fine. Only then did he let out a long breath and gently set me down. The moment my feet touched the ground, I noticed that the man who had looked so serious just now had ears turning red at a speed visible to the naked eye. He scratched his head, his eyes wandering. His Adam's apple bobbed a few times before he finally spoke in a dry voice. I was just worried and acted rashly. Please forgive the offense, General. Seeing the fine beads of sweat on his forehead, my heart softened. In the end, I didn't say a single word of reproach. I straightened my slightly messy collar and headed toward the dining hall first. Zhang Xiaoman arrived just in time, her gaze moving back and forth between the two of us. I waved at her. Come on. Let's eat first. After all that commotion, I'm starving. Then I glanced back. Zhou Gang was still standing where he was. Don't just stand there like an idiot, I called out. Keep up. Inside the dining hall, Zhou Gang once again sat with his back to the door. He picked up his chopsticks and buried his head in his food. The dishes had already cooled slightly. I didn't say anything either and focused on eating. Zhang Xiaoman sat between us, her little head turning from side to side. After Zhou Gang finished eating, I set down my chopsticks as well and asked softly, Now tell me, why did you hit someone at the front gate? Zhou Gang clenched his fists and said in a low voice, Zhou Lang said there must be some misunderstanding between you two. He said he would wait outside the residence until you calmed down. The onlookers started saying your temper was too strong, that only a man as patient as Vice Minister Zhou could tolerate you. He replied that you had just returned from the battlefield. Of course you carried some killing aura, and a bad temper was understandable. He said he could be more tolerant. I narrowed my eyes. Suddenly I called toward the door. Someone. A guard stepped in. Go tell Commander Wang to send more men to investigate something, I said coldly. Find out exactly what Vice Minister Zhou said when he hosted his colleagues the day the imperial marriage decree was announced. The guard left at once. Zhang Xiaoman finished eating as well and set down her bowl. So he's hiding something from you? I nodded. Most likely the misunderstanding he mentioned. Something that would make me refuse to marry him if I knew. After court today, he didn't ask why I broke the engagement. Instead, he asked if someone had been gossiping about him in front of me. He even said if that were the case, it must be jealous colleagues slandering him on purpose, and that I shouldn't take it to heart. Zhang Xiaoman's eyes lit up. Isn't that the classic "the silver isn't buried here" trick? Zhou Gang slammed his fist on the table. That hypocrite. He must have said something awful. If I'd known, I should have punched him a few more times. I quickly finished the rest of the food, then drank the medicinal soup Xiaoman had prepared in one gulp before standing up. Enough guessing. Let's wait for Wang Tai's investigation. Come on. Let's take a walk in the back courtyard. The moon was beautiful tonight. Not yet full, but its silver light spread across the ground. Zhang Xiaoman and I walked side by side with Zhou Gang following behind me. When we reached the stone table and I was about to sit down, Zhou Gang suddenly took off his outer robe and spread it over the stone stool. You've just recovered from serious injuries, he said. You shouldn't sit on something cold. Zhang Xiaoman clicked her tongue and turned away to look at the moon. I glanced at Zhou Gang's chest, slightly outlined beneath his thin inner garment, and immediately turned my face away. Still, I didn't refuse his kindness. I sat down on his robe, which still held his warmth. You sit too, I said, pointing at the stool across from me. Zhou Gang shook his head. I'll stand. I smiled faintly. You followed me for 5 years. Why are you still so stiff? Zhou Gang said seriously. I'm just used to standing behind you. I sighed softly. If you stay like that, I'll have to turn my head just to see you. Isn't that tiring? Zhou Gang froze for a moment. His breathing stopped briefly before he finally sat down properly across from me. I lifted my head and looked at the moon. Come to think of it, I said casually. You're already 26, aren't you? When my house arrest is lifted, how about I arrange a marriage for you? Zhou Gang's body suddenly stiffened. He jumped to his feet immediately. A hint of panic appeared on his usually steady face. You're sending me away? I looked at him seriously. With your military achievements and experience, you're more than qualified for the position of General of the Northern Campaign. I've already delayed you for 5 years. I can't keep you tied to me like this. Once I report to His Majesty, you'll be able to establish your own household and marry. I don't care about that. Zhao Gang shouted, his neck stiff. My life was saved by the old general. Before the young general left for battle, he personally told me to take care of you. I don't have any other ambitions in this life. Being able to stay by your side forever is enough. I froze slightly. You mean my brother? Of course. Zhao Gang had been introduced to me by my brother. When I first took over the Li family army, Zhao Gang was the one who helped me stabilize things. Zhao Gang lowered his eyes. After several breaths, he said quietly, when the young general went to fight beyond the border, I wanted to go too. But he ordered me to stay behind and guard the main camp. He said no matter what happened in that battle, the banner of the Li family army must never fall. And his little sister must never be left without someone to protect her. My nose suddenly stung and tears burst from my eyes. So my brother had already found someone to entrust me to. Zhao Gang had always been right behind me. Every time I woke from a serious injury, he was the first person I saw. During that surprise raid I led, it was also him who held the main army together for more than a month, waiting to receive my isolated force. And what had I been doing? Even when I collapsed unconscious on his back, I was still clutching the jade pendant Zhou Lang had given me, murmuring Zhou Lang's name. Li Weiyuan. What on earth were you doing? Smack! I suddenly slapped myself across the face. My cheek burned instantly. General! 2 voices cried out at the same time. Covering my numb cheek, I looked through blurred vision at Zhao Gang's panicked face. His hand hovered in front of me again, wanting to touch but not daring to. Zhang Xiaoman quickly sat beside me and examined my face. What are you doing? My voice choked. I suddenly realized. I've been incredibly stupid. Stupid beyond saving. Zhao Gang panicked. Who said that? Without your brilliant strategies, how could we have completely defeated the barbarian tribes and avenged the old general, the young general, and tens of thousands of our brothers? I couldn't help laughing through my tears. No, that's not what I meant. Just now you said you'd stay by my side for the rest of your life. You're not allowed to take that back. Zhao Gang immediately stood and dropped to one knee. I obey. I'll stay by your side for the rest of my life and never regret it. I shook my head with a small smile. You idiot. I pulled out a handkerchief to wipe my tears. Only after wiping them did I realize. I had taken out Zhao Gang's cloth. My movement paused. Zhao Gang's gaze also fell on the cloth, as if he couldn't look away. I casually tucked it back into my sleeve and cleared my throat. All right. Get up. And stop calling yourself this subordinate, and calling me general every other word. Zhao Gang blinked. Then what should I call you? I glared at him and turned to walk away. Behind me, Zhang Xiaoman's teasing voice rang out. If you really don't know, just copy me. Ayu. Wait for me. I'll go get your medicine. She quickly ran after me. When I glanced back, Zhao Gang was still standing there foolishly, but the corners of his lips kept rising. We had just stepped out of the back courtyard when the guard commander Wang Tai returned. It was dark at night. He probably couldn't see my slightly swollen eyes, or my red cheek. Right? But after one glance at my face, he immediately lowered his head. Great. Another subordinate saw it. I forced my voice to sound rough. That was fast. You already found something. Commander Wang Tai replied respectfully. The scholars' circles in the capital have been spreading it everywhere. It wasn't difficult to find out. I nodded. Go on. I'm listening. Wang Tai hesitated awkwardly. When the colleagues were flattering Vice Minister Zhou, he had probably drunk too much, so he said. Zhao Gang had walked up by then. Stop stalling, he snapped. What did that hypocrite say about the general? Wang Tai glanced at me again but still hesitated. I patted his shoulder. Say it honestly. I'm not that fragile. Only then did he muster the courage and imitate Zhou Lang's tone. Please don't tease me, gentlemen. Li Yueyuan spent 5 years among soldiers. She doesn't have a trace of womanly grace left. It's hard to say whether she's even still chaste. But she still has some power, so I suppose I can reluctantly take her in. The air seemed to freeze instantly. The courtyard fell into a deathly silence. Even the insects seemed frightened away by those vicious words. Clang! The sharp ring of a sword breaking from its sheath shattered the stillness. Zhao Gang's sword was already drawn, gleaming coldly in the moonlight. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging on his temples. The killing intent radiating from him was even stronger than on the battlefield. He turned and stormed toward the front gate. I'm going to cut him down right now. Stop! I shouted sharply. Zhao Gang halted mid-step and turned back toward me. His chest heaved violently, his eyes red, his voice shaking. General! How dare he? How dare he insult you like that? You led from the front, fought through blood and fire, yet in his mouth. Zhang Xiaoman was trembling with rage, stomping her foot. Top scholar? He's a worm crawling out of a gutter. If he despised you so much, why accept the imperial marriage? He wanted your power. Yet he insults you behind your back and smears your reputation to make himself look noble. I took a deep breath and pulled out a small porcelain bottle, swallowing a heart-saving pill. So that's how it was. In my previous life on our wedding night, he refused to come near me because of the scars covering my body. I thought my scars had frightened him. I thought he was simply timid. But the truth was, he wasn't just afraid. He thought I was filthy. My wounds had been treated by others. My body had been seen. I had not preserved my chastity for him, but I had preserved peace for the entire realm. Zhao Gang, sheath your sword. My voice was strangely calm. General. Zhao Gang stomped his foot in frustration. A beast like that, killing him would dirty the blade. And you still want to endure it? I walked up to him and placed my hand over the back of the hand gripping his sword, feeling the anger trembling through him. You said it yourself. Killing him would dirty the blade. You're a 4th-ranked military officer of the court. Is it worth ruining your future and taking the crime of murdering a court official for someone like him? Zhao Gang gritted his teeth. For you, it's worth it. My heart trembled violently. Looking into his eyes, I said softly, that worthless life of his isn't worth trading yours. Zhao Gang froze. The murderous aura around him instantly faded by half. I curved my lips slightly. You're my man. Your life belongs to me. I won't allow you to throw it away. Zhao Gang's lips trembled. Finally he sheathed his sword. I obey. But his face was still full of anger. I patted his shoulder calmly. This battle, I'll fight it myself. If he betrayed my heart, that's my own bad judgment. I accept it. But if he stains my honor and insults my family name, that I will not accept. Zhang Xiaoman clenched her fists. Well said. How do you plan to fight this battle? I, Zhang Xiaoman, will follow your orders. I placed another hand on her shoulder. Good. Then tell me. Do you dare to storm the imperial palace with me tonight? Zhang Xiaoman's eyes widened instantly. That bold. If your banner charges ahead like that, even if I grow horse legs I won't be able to keep up. I'll arrange a carriage immediately, Zhao Gang said, turning to leave. I kept my eyes on Zhang Xiaoman. Well? Do you dare? She stomped her foot. For justice for women. I'm all in. I laughed boldly. Good. Then this friendship is settled. Once this battle is over, we'll become sworn sisters. Zhang Xiaoman lifted her chin. Fine. As long as we come back alive, I'll accept you as my sworn sister. I raised an eyebrow and turned to Commander Wang Tai. Go tell the captain of the Imperial Guards at the gate that I wish to see His Majesty one last time. If we're late, he may not see me again. Also bring 2 men with a stretcher. In a moment they'll carry me to the carriage. Zhang Xiaoman slapped her forehead. I get it now. So this is how we're storming the palace. Good grief, little sister. You nearly scared me to death. SK. If we want to perform this play properly, looks like you really do need me. Wang Tai quickly returned with the stretcher. I let myself flop onto it naturally. Wang Tai, you come too. Whatever you said earlier, make sure you say the same in front of the emperor later. Then I closed my eyes, my hands drooping over the sides, my head tilted, deciding to stop caring about everything. Zhang Xiaoman immediately shouted frantically in my ear. General! General Li! Don't sleep, don't sleep. I'll administer the needles right away. She actually stuck several needles into my head and face. Instantly, even trying to open my eyes was difficult, and I couldn't lift the corners of my mouth. Well, my sister is definitely tougher than me. Fortunately, I could still hear voices. General! What happened? How come you've become like this in just a moment? It was Zhao Gang. The sound made my eardrums ache. General Zhao, stay calm. I've just administered needles to keep the general's last breath stable. Let's hurry to the palace. The general must see His Majesty one last time. My goodness, even Zhao Gang got fooled by my sister. Zhao Gang said. I'll carry you into the palace to see the emperor. Hang in there. You've survived so many near-death moments already. You can make it this time too. Zhang Xiaoman said. Don't move. General Zhao, don't touch General Li. Just lift her onto the carriage like this and take her to the palace. Quickly, move fast. Zhao Gang's voice was choked with tears. All right, tell me what to do, Imperial Physician Zhang. Whatever it takes to save the general, I'll do it. I felt my heart tremble. Zhang Xiaoman said. Stop talking nonsense and move. Anyone who blocks you, just kick them. Right now, only His Majesty can save the general. All right, my sister really lives up to her reputation. If anyone else gets hurt, I'll take responsibility. Open the way. Everyone out of the way. I'm taking the general to see His Majesty one last time. Li Weiyuan, what are you? Zhou Lang was still at the door. Get out of the way. Zhao Gang barked, followed by a crack like a rib breaking. Zhou Lang's scream grew fainter and fainter until he finally thudded to the ground. Vice Minister Zhou, are you all right? Voices from the crowd called out. No, it's General Li who's in trouble. Look at her. Just now, General Li's old injuries flared from Zhou Lang's insults, and Zhao Gang carried her inside. Now seeing her like this. Oh my, did Zhou Lang really almost kill General Li with his words? That's a hero who repelled the barbarians and reclaimed the northern frontier. I failed to protect General Li. I will personally escort her into the palace now, said the captain of the Imperial Guards. I breathed a sigh of relief. With the Imperial Guards clearing the way, Zhao Gang wouldn't have to kick anyone else. Kicking Zhou Lang once was enough. The sound of carriage wheels reached my ears. A warm hand touched mine, rough yet comforting. It was Zhao Gang's hand. Then came the dampness, Zhao Gang's tears. This time you don't have a jade pendant to hold. So hold my hand instead. I know that every time you clutch it you can wake up. But that pendant is broken, and I have no elegant replacement, so I give you myself to hold, Zhao Gang whispered. My chest roiled, my nose prickling, but I couldn't cry. I squeezed Zhao Gang's hand in return, just hoping this idiot wouldn't truly panic. His hand trembled, gripping mine tighter until it hurt. Yet compared to my past injuries it was nothing. Imperial Physician Zhang, the general can still be saved. I feel her squeezing my hand back, Zhao Gang said anxiously. Tisk, careful. Haven't you seen her hands are already red from your grip? Zhang Xiaoman scolded. Zhao Gang eased his grip but didn't let go. Oh, if she wakes, don't tell her anything yet. Good, I won't say a word. You should think about what to say when you meet the emperor, Zhang Xiaoman replied. With the captain of the Imperial Guards present, entering the palace went smoothly. Earlier, when Zhao Gang carried me into the residence, Xiaoman had already informed the palace through the guards. Sure enough, the emperor was still awake. What's going on? I just sent Zhang Yuan to your residence, and now you're bringing her into the palace again? Wang Delu, send people to get Zhang Yuan back. Since she's already here, treat her in the palace first. Damn. Earlier it was just confinement at my residence. Now I'd be under the emperor's watch. Your Majesty, I am at fault, please punish me. Zhao Gang muttered with a thud. The matter of beating Vice Minister Zhou? I heard from the Imperial Guards. Explain, why did you take action? I heard street rumors and the vile words Vice Minister Zhou spoke during a banquet. I was so angry I couldn't hold back. What exactly did you hear? Did it really drive General Zhao, normally so composed, to strike a court official publicly? Wang Tai repeated the vile words he had investigated in vivid detail. Outrageous. Someone bring Vice Minister Zhou to me. Zhang Xiaoman, Zhang the physician, helped this girl immediately. She was lively and laughing this morning, and now. My heart warmed. If my father were still alive, he would surely feel just like the emperor. General Li's heart illness hasn't healed, and she was startled. I've just administered needles to hold her last breath, just so she can see His Majesty one last time. So if we remove the needles, will she wake up? Yes, but whether she survives afterward depends on whether her heart's knot can be untied. Zhang Xiaoman is incredible. She's already ensured it can be done. How do we untie this heart knot? Heart problems must be treated with the right medicine of the heart. I couldn't help but glance at the emperor's expression. Thankfully, the needles Xiaoman gave me. All right, I understand. This morning she cried from anger, but I was too infuriated by her hiding her injuries to ask further. So it was Vice Minister Zhou's vile words that angered her, concerning her honor. No wonder she couldn't speak. I never expected Zhou Lang to be so despicable, thinking she's alone and easy to bully. I could hear the emperor's remorse and tears filled my chest. Good thing of the needles or I'd be crying buckets right now. The door of the imperial study opened, followed by Zhou Lang's frantic voice. Your Majesty, General Zhao struck me in broad daylight, and even broke my ribs. You must. Another crack, and Zhou Lang's scream rattled my eardrums. Who kicked him this time? Zhao Gang, don't you dare go rogue in front of the emperor. If he really dies, it won't just be on me. Even the emperor couldn't protect you. Ha! Your Majesty, why did you kick me too? Aren't you afraid I'll die here and be remembered as a foolish ruler? Foolish ruler? You insulted a national hero, angered the pillar of the nation, and I simply gave you a lesson, one that matches your arrogance. Haha, so it was the emperor who kicked him. Excellent. Vice Minister Zhou, hold on. I'll set your bones. Dying in the imperial study is terrible luck. Zhou Lang's shrieks became even more piercing. I fought to suppress my laughter. No need to suppress, it couldn't escape. I laughed heartily in my mind. Your Majesty, don't dirty your boots on this scoundrel. If you want to kick more, let me handle it. I'm tough enough. The spittle of the civil officials won't harm me. Sigh, this idiot. Does a military officer's reputation not count? Which hand did he point with when cursing her outside the residence? The right hand. I'll break it now. Then came a series of bone-cracking sounds, sharp and rhythmic like firecrackers. Zhou Lang's once pleasant voice now split and shrieked hideously. Ah, General Zhao, be gentle. How am I supposed to mend this now? Vice Minister Zhou, stop screaming, or you'll ruin your throat. The study's things are precious. Just bite my shoe if you want. I don't mind your mouth being dirty. I'll set the bones now. Listening to Zhou Lang's pained cries, I almost lost it. The corner of my mouth twitched. Girl. Zhang the physician, forget that scoundrel for now, check her immediately. She reacted earlier. Did I give the right medicine? Truly, Your Majesty. You quickly found the right heart medicine. I'll remove the needles now, see if she can wake. Xiaoman stepped forward to remove the needles. I still kept my eyes tightly shut, straining my facial muscles. Girl, wake up. Once you're awake, I'll grant you the rank of Grand General, your father's former post. Not much different from my current role, still leading the military. I stayed stiff, unmoving. Then shall I make you princess of the nation? This is even higher than your father's title of loyal and brave marquis. A female duke? Sounds impressive. My lashes trembled, still I didn't open my eyes. Not enough? Then I'll grant you Grand General as well. The emperor froze briefly, then stood. All yours. Now get up, the floor's cold. Just tell me what you want directly. Why the big fuss trying to scare someone to death? But I warn you in advance, you can only command from the center, not go to the front lines yourself. I hurriedly climbed off the stretcher, kneeling on one knee. Your godfather, your daughter thanks you for your gracious favor. The emperor snorted, looking at Zhang Xiaoman. Zhang the physician, Zhang Xiaoman, you're bold, daring to conspire with this girl. I immediately stood and hooked Xiaoman's arm. Godfather, let me introduce my newly sworn sister, your half-goddaughter. The emperor froze, then lifted his foot and threw his boot at me. Conspiring, huh? Won't even act a little longer? Your father never had time for you. Now I'll teach you a lesson, you brat. I quickly caught the boot, kneeling to help him put it on. Godfather, calm down. I was just helpless with anger, arguing with those officials unable to refute rumors. I had no choice but to risk my life. The emperor's gaze shifted toward the study doorway. Following his eyes, I saw Zhou Lang on the ground, his right arm bent at a strange angle. He still had a silk-embroidered shoe in his mouth, the thick sole smeared with blood from his mouth. Zhao Gang's foot pressed on his left hand. I fought back a laugh. Godfather, your capable son-in-law of the Imperial Guards, reduced to this in your study. Do you think they're plotting a rebellion? Zhou Lang kept wailing, his cries filling the room. I tugged at my ears. Minister Zhou, what are you even saying? Speak louder. I can't hear you. He only cried louder. Oh, I see. You didn't actually want to rebel. You, a mere minister of revenue, marrying the Imperial Guards commander isn't enough. You even tried to marry me, the princess, just to use my control of the frontier troops as leverage, so you wouldn't fear your father-in-law. The emperor's entire demeanor shifted instantly, his gaze sharp and unforgiving. Minister of Revenue. I entrusted you with the empire's treasury, yet you dare conspire with my Imperial Guards and try to marry my top general. Are you aiming even for my life? Guards. Seize Zhou Lang, lock him up, and audit every coin in the Ministry of Revenue and the Imperial Guards under Commander Liu. If a single penny doesn't match, I will annihilate your entire family. As the Imperial Guards dragged Zhou Lang away, his fractured right hand was jolted, producing another scream. Zhao Gang released his foot. Zhou Lang quickly yanked the shoe from his mouth with his left hand, roaring, Your Majesty! I only sought promotion, never rebellion. Li Yueyuan, I fought on the battlefield myself, risking my life for 5 years to protect the nation. How dare you ruin my reputation and stain my honor? I stepped forward and slapped him across the face. He tried to speak again, but the emperor's voice cut him off. Drag him out, don't dirty my study. I reached for a handkerchief to wipe my hands, but it was still Zhao Gang's square scarf. I froze and the emperor's gaze fell sharply on me. Whose is this handkerchief? Tell me. If it's his, I will grant you a marriage and make him your son-in-law. I looked at Zhao Gang. His lips trembled, tears streaking his face. The emperor turned to him. It's yours, General Zhao? Then why are you crying? A marriage grant is a good thing, why cry? Follow your general, can't you learn something besides sniffles? Zhao Gang pulled out something from his chest, wiping his face. It was my handkerchief. The emperor's face brightened. A marriage grant. I will issue the decree immediately. Zhao Gang will be the prince consort of the princess of the nation. You won't need to go to the frontier anymore. If the previous Imperial Guards commander truly had issues, you will take his place. You too can stay in the capital, live properly, and help the Li family expand. Zhao Gang was about to kneel and thank the emperor when the emperor asked, But why were you crying earlier? Speak honestly or I'll revoke all of this. Zhao Gang sniffled, glanced at me and said softly, I thought the general had truly lost consciousness. She's had flare-ups before, and I feared this one was real. The emperor's expression darkened. So it was real? Not all an act. What are you doing, using acting to deceive me? Zhang Xiaoman, tell the truth. Otherwise, I won't recognize you as my half-goddaughter. Xiaoman leapt from the corner, hopping as she said, Godfather, it wasn't once, it was twice. I hurried to cover her mouth. Sister, that moment of weakness I had, how could I explain? The emperor snorted, and just then the Imperial Medical Director, Zhang, returned. I covered my face. Sure enough, after checking my pulse, Zhang confirmed my heart meridian had opened again, and the emperor detained me that night. He also locked Xiaoman and me in the same palace, making her prepare medicine and apply needles. Neither of us could leave until I fully recovered. That night, Xiaoman applied scar ointment while sighing. Little sister, we truly share fortune and hardship together. Hearing little sister made my nose sting. It had been 5 years since anyone called me that. The last time was before my brother led the army to attack Shanhaiguan. He brought a strong man before me. Little sister, I won't have time to teach you martial arts anymore. Let him continue. His name is Zhao Gang. I sniffled and looked out at the moon, almost full. In my past life, tonight I married Zhou Lang and died from grief and rage. This time I have Zhao Gang, the emperor and Xiaoman. My heart is finally at peace.